4. All right, so we got that out of the way. Welcome everybody. We will get started shortly. This bigger. Right. Good, we got that. Right. Welcome. Lawful evenings, Kim. We will get started shortly. Getting started shortly. All right. This is we got one. What's on again? Welcome. All right, so this is 2. Yes, we can pretty up that later. 3 bar. What is this? Alright, so let us move this around. Give me a few minutes and we're gonna get started. Just formatting a few sections so that we're looking at something that is formatted properly. Today is going to be a momentous day. I know, say, I have to run left for a second, just for a second. Come I have pot a fire, for lock it off. All right, give I and I 1 minute. All right. Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody's having a great weekend so far. Hope things are productive. We have hit a milestone, and today we will get to complete the initial constitutional draft. So that will be a milestone achievement. We only have a few sections to go. Why do we have? Oh, that's that. There we go. So the goal today is going to be to get through the draft, and then next time we can work on integrating the suggestions that are made and also refining the Constitution. So we're going to be making some good strides today. So I'm just finishing up the formatting real quick, and then we're going to get started. And for those, again, who keep asking, the website is voiceofjamaica.com. Click on the first post, and you'll be able to make suggestions there. Yes, we're going to have live session where you can simply be on the live. You can make your suggestions. But it's probably better if you can make a submission on the website so that, you know, we have a list that we can go through. All right. So let's see where we at with this. All right. Almost there, almost there. I don't like to be late, you know, but you know, so sometimes we have personal matters to entertain and take care of, right? Okay. All right. So now we are going to update the website. Three, four, five. Some of these sections are rather small so that we can entertain submissions. All right. So this is going to be 1 to 5, 1 to 4. Okay, so we're done with that. I'm gonna upload to the site, and we will be ready to go. All right, upload time. Let's go here. straighten up and get over here. All right, welcome everyone. Today is Saturday, March 28th, 2026. Remote tours, lawful. Welcome, welcome. I hope everybody is having a great weekend. And today we're going to be covering the latter section of our constitutional draft. While it is still not completed yet, the major portion of the draft is complete, and we're going to review the latter sections today. And once we complete that today, then we will have the next sessions covering suggestions, refinements, and so forth and so forth, right? So let us head over to the computer so that we can speak lawfully, right? So for those who are new, the website is voiceofjamaica.com. You scroll down and you click on New Constitution, and from here we're gonna go to the PDF edition, right? Mr. Difficult, Wagwan. Lawful, welcome, welcome. So this is the new constitution. We are going to continue where we left off. As you can see, we changed the title page to look a little bit more uniform, right? We have our preamble, declaration, Bill of Rights, etc., etc. So the last time we stopped at, let's see, I made sure I made a line. Here we go. So last time we stopped at page 83. I spaced out the sections more so that they're, you know, a little bit more easier to navigate. So today we're gonna cover Article 16, which covers rights, freedoms, and protections. Right, so this is an expanded charter of individual and collective rights. No, sir, we are not rewriting the Constitution. We are writing the first Constitution of Jamaica. The first one that is currently being used is what is called a constitutional framework. It is not a real constitution. It is an order coming from England, right? So the people have never drafted a constitution in Jamaica, and that is what we have set out to do. So in this section, we're going to cover the rights, freedoms, and protections. It's basically an expanded charter of individual and collective rights. Section 1, supremacy of rights. The rights and freedoms set out in this article are inherent to all people. Now, this is very, very, very important. No constitution states that the powers and the rights of the people are inherent. Let us go take a look at what that means. Just go to a quick Google, well, a quick Bing search, right? What does inherent mean? And we're going to go to the Black's Law Dictionary shortly, but I'm just going to show you the quick AI summary. Inherent means existing in something as a permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute, right? So that means that this is not something that can be removed or changed. A right comes inherent to the individual. You're born with it. From you're born until you're dead. That is what inherent means. It is sovereign. It is of its own authority. Right? So, let us take a look at the Black's Law Dictionary. Alright, and we're going to use a later edition because I know some people always say, why are you using the 4th edition? Why are you not using a later one? It does not matter. You can use whatever authority you feel is necessary, right? So let us find inherent. Inherent powers, inherent anticipation, inherency, inheritance. You see, it doesn't have inherent by itself. Not surprising, even though this is a Black's Law 9th edition. It has inherent powers, it has inherent rights. It says, see, inalienable right, under right? So this is pointing you to right. Right? So let us take a look at the Black's Law 4th edition and see if it covers just the word inherent. Right? So here we have Black's 4th. We'll go down to ID, impeachment, ingress, we'll get there. Intro, indemnity, induct, inherit, interesting. We have inherent powers, right? Which is basically what we would look at, but it is a little bit strange that the word inherent doesn't appear to be a legal term. It appears to be an equity term, which sometimes are not covered by these legal dictionaries. Interesting. So if we look at let's go back up one. Let's go over. Inherent power, right? Inherent power means an authority possessed without its being derived from another. A right, ability, or faculty of doing a thing without receiving that right, ability, or faculty from another, right? So again, something that you're born with, someone don't give it to you. It is inside of you. It is created from the beginning. Nobody give you that, and therefore nobody can take it away, right? That's what inherent rights mean. Okay, so let's get back to our document, right? So when we talk about the supremacy of rights, your rights are inherent. Nobody give you rights. You are born with it. However, it is only you who can declare that you have rights, because that is the other part of law. For those who are not familiar, in law, it is only what you declare and accept. Those are the only things that apply to you, right? And those things can apply either by your silence or by your action. So the rights, and so this document is going to be a declaration, it's going to be a constitution, it's going to be all sorts of different things in one, right? Simply again, because if you keep on having different bodies of law all over the place, not only does it bring confusion, but it also brings discretion, and we don't want to have discretion with the law, right? So, 1, the rights and freedoms set out in this article are inherent to all people, meaning you don't have to go out there and go claim it. You don't have to go out there and go saying, I have this right, I have this right, I have that right. You know, sometimes the court is coming talking about, oh, we are checking to see if this right is applicable to this. No, everybody born with it. It is inherent to all people. So there is no question about whether or not the Constitution is giving you rights or it is giving you protections. The Constitution is here recognizing all rights of all people, right? 2, these rights shall be protected at all times and may only be limited where necessary to protect the rights of others, required for immediate public safety, right? So if we're going to limit or restrict a right, it has to be where someone else's rights are being violated or being challenged, or if it is a matter of public safety. So obviously, if you break the law, your rights cannot remain, right? Your rights have to be limited now because you are now endangering the public. Very simple. Any limitation must be lawful, specific, and proportionate, right? So again, it largely comes down to the decision of the public, because we are the ones as a public who are going to set the punishment and the rules for violations of law, violations of rights, and violations of the public peace, right? Let me see if I can zoom in this a little. Okay. Hopefully that is a little bit clearer. Everybody can read, right? Section 2, right to life and security. Every person has the right to life. Very simple. Every person has the right to personal safety and protection from harm. No person shall be deprived of life or liberty without lawful judgment, right? So this, again, should have been self-evident from all of the laws that are within a country. However, there are many people out there who feel that law enforcement has the right to do many things which they do not. So again, if we have a constitution that clearly defines what is permitted and what is not, and how actions could be taken, that is how we limit the actions of state agents, right? So no person shall be deprived of life or liberty without lawful judgment. It is very clear. Lawful judgment. So that means what? You have to go to a court or a tribunal in order for someone to be deprived of liberty or life. Section 3, equality before the law. All persons are equal under the law. And I know there are some people out there who are saying, why are you using the word person? Why you don't use people? Again, the definitions are also going to be within this document. So there will be no question about what person mean. The term person, as we write this constitution, will not include corporations or any fictional entities. No fabrications of the mind. This is all related to people. So all persons are equal under the law. 2, no law shall grant privilege or immunity based on status, position, wealth, or affiliation, right? You cannot be given any kind of elevated status just because of where you are within society. Everybody is equal before the law. The law shall apply equally to all individuals and institutions. 4, freedom of thought, belief, and expression. Every person has the right to think freely, hold belief, and express ideas. Expression shall not be restricted except where it causes direct harm, right? So, this is always a contentious topic, right? Where someone will say, well, I have the right of freedom of speech. And I have the right to express my ideas. And somebody might say, well, this is offensive to me, right? Being offensive does not mean it is harming you. What harm can someone harm you by speaking, right? Unless, of course, they are out there spreading lies about your reputation. That is different. You can obviously prove harm. But someone expressing themselves and their ideas cannot be considered, some kind of violation of public order unless you are disturbing the peace. So again, without direct harm, we cannot suppress people's inherent rights, which again, you have the right to think freely, you have the right to hold your own beliefs, and you have the right to express your ideas. Now, granted, you cannot go out there violating everybody or trying to stop everybody from doing whatever they are doing to listen to you, right? So it has to be proportional, obviously. But again, those things are going to be expanded on while we start editing, these provisions into more specific sections. Section 5, freedom of assembly and association. People may gather peacefully. People may form groups, organizations, or associations. No person shall be forced to join any group. And we will expand on this later too. Section 6, freedom of movement. Every person may move freely within Jamaica. Every person may leave and return to the island. Movement may be limited only for lawful and necessary reasons. We cannot have people being restricted just because of some arbitrary policy. The people would have to come together and authorize any such limitation. Section 7, right to privacy. Every person has the right to privacy in their home, communications, and personal information. Very simple. 2, intrusion into privacy must be lawful, justified by evidence, and limited in scope. Section 8, protection from arbitrary action. No person shall be arrested without cause, detained without evidence, or subject to arbitrary action by authorities. And we talk about this in earlier sections, right? We cannot have a justice system where documentation, records, evidence, and all these things are being kept in some manner that is not reviewable immediately. We cannot have a system where the record keeping is so disturbing and inaccessible to the general public that it almost seems like, it is a secret system. We need to have transparency in all levels of government. So if we're going to have law enforcement out there enforcing the law, it is very simple. We cannot be out there trying to prevent crime. Because to prevent crime meaning what? It means that you can now go out there and you can stop anybody. You can go into anybody's house because you're trying to prevent crime. That means you violate everybody's privacy. You violate everybody's rights to anything because you're trying to prevent crime. I mean, unless that is what the people want, then obviously, they will allow that. But in the normal sense of things where people value their privacy and their liberty, we cannot allow anything to happen without cause, without evidence, or without some kind of information. And it has to be existing information. It cannot be something you're doing and then after the fact, now you are seeking some kind of backup plan after you have done somebody wrong, right? So no person shall be subjected to arbitrary action by authorities. It has to be based on evidence. 2, all actions by authorities must be lawful and documented. And we are heavy on the documentation part, right? If we're going to have a society where we actually feel at peace, we actually look forward to the next day to come out and interact with each other, we have to have documentation and transparency, right? We have to be able to hold all wrongdoers accountable. You hear what we say? Wrongdoers. We have to be able to hold wrongdoers accountable. And that includes everybody. It doesn't matter what position you have in society. Everybody should be held to what? The same level of responsibility when it comes to the law. Section 9, right to fair trial. Every person has the right to a public hearing, an impartial court, knowledge of the accusation, and the opportunity to present and challenge evidence, right? We have much of this in the current constitutional framework, but it is unenforceable. It is unenforceable Because first of all, most of the time you don't even have a tribunal. You don't have an impartial tribunal either, which we're going to get into. Just because a judge is in a courtroom, that is not a tribunal. Just because you have 3 judges on a panel, that does not mean it's an impartial court. Because if the judges are a part of the same system that is accusing you, how can the court now be impartial? When the same party who is charging you is also paying the judges. It does not make sense. That can never be impartial. Right? 2, justice shall be delivered without unnecessary delay. We hear about cases going 5, 10, 12 years to get a verdict, to actually try a case. That is absolutely ridiculous. This is why we need to have a uniform information system, right? You cannot do anything without uploading it to the system. We need to remove all of these handwritten nonsense. Handwritten papers people can hardly read. You don't know what is happening with a specific process. We need to have a system where you say, okay, if somebody is charged, you have an indicator system. You say, okay, this is required, that is required, that is required, that is required. So at each step, the documentation is being uploaded digitally, right? We should not have private data systems where the public don't have access and law enforcement can write down whatever they want and change it later and do all these things. That is not justice. This is absolutely not justice. Section 10, protection of property. Every person has the right to own and use property peacefully. Property shall not be taken without lawful justification and fair compensation. Right? So if, for whatever reason, the property has to be taken by the government for whatever purpose, fair compensation must follow. Section 11, freedom from unlawful punishment. No punishment shall be imposed unless defined by law and determined by a lawful court. Punishment must be proportionate to the offense, which is self-explanatory, right? You can't have somebody being punished by something that is not defined by law. Section 12, right to information. Every person has the right to access public information. Government actions shall not be concealed from the people. You know, so many times we hear that, oh, that document is confidential. Oh, that document cannot be accessed at the moment. Oh, all kinds of excuses. We cannot have that if we're talking about a fair, legal, and justice system. Everyone should have a right to access all of that information as public information. The government is not a separate entity. It is simply the people themselves who have given their power to a specific set of people to do a job. That's all the government is. It is not this alien nation that come to judge everybody. Section 13, right to participate in governance. Every citizen has the right to vote and participate in public decision making. Right? So, as we covered in earlier sections, it is the people who will vote on all major decision makings. And if we have the people voting on all public decision making, I can't see how we can go wrong. The majority of the population will always show what is in the best interest of everyone. Now, obviously, we're always going to have a disparity in vote, right? But at the same time, it will show that a majority will vote for something that it is beneficial to the majority. 2, no person shall be excluded from participation without lawful cause. So when it comes to the right to participate in voting on government decisions, the only thing that would exclude an individual would be, first of all, we don't want somebody too young trying to vote, right? Yes, they're a part of the population, but you need to be of legal age, right? So we can say either 18 or 21 or whatever the case may be. But obviously there's a part of the population that is not intelligent enough as yet to make informed decisions like voting, right? So we don't want minors voting, so we still have to have restrictions there. Section 14, protection from discrimination. No person shall be discriminated against based on belief, origin, identity, or social status, right? So belief also has what? Religion in it. Origin, wherever they are from, etc., etc. Equal protection shall be guaranteed to all. And when we say to all, we have to be specific as well. When we say we the people, we're talking about Jamaicans, but also we also have to talk about those who are visiting, right? So if you're visiting, if you have any rights where you're coming from, those rights transfer with you as well, right? But of course, if you come into the country and you violate any of the laws, you are going to be subjected to the local laws. Section 15, right to work and livelihood. Every person has the right to pursue lawful work. Work shall be fair and not exploitative. Plain and simple. Section 16, right to education and knowledge. Every person has the right to education. Knowledge shall be accessible to all without unnecessary restriction, right? And again, right now, the current constitution allows the government to fund basic school and primary school. Anything up to primary school, right? So now, it is beneficial for everyone to have access at this point, we know, up to college level, depending on what it is you're pursuing. So the question is, why can't we fund the other levels of institution? Because it is not a matter of, I guess you can say, it is not a matter of whether or not we have the funds to do it. It is why are we not doing it? That is the major question, right? But again, that is for when we can actually see what we have in the consolidated funds. Section 17, protection against government overreach. Government authority shall be limited by this constitution. 2, any act conceding lawful authority shall be void. Any act exceeding lawful authority shall be void. And this is rather important as well. No constitution around the world makes a provision like this, stating that any action exceeding lawful authority shall be void. Especially in the courts, Sometimes the courts can take action that is outside of the laws, rules, and regulation, and it is still being enforced as valid. And then later on, after they violate people, they are telling you, oh, you are entitled to this amount of millions because they made a wrongful decision. No, we cannot have that. Once an act is exceeding the lawful authority, it is automatically void. You cannot be held in prison or held, to be in any kind of servitude based on an unlawful action. Individuals may challenge unlawful government action in court, right? So, unlawful arrest, unlawful search, unlawful anything. Those things, are obviously causes of action that you can bring forth in a court. Section 18, enforcement of rights. Any person whose rights are violated may seek remedy through the courts. Courts shall provide timely review and effective remedy. Violations by public officials shall result in accountability under the law. All right? So clearly, we are removing all immunity. We cannot have people who are exempt from the law. So you can't go out there breaking the law talking about you are trying to catch lawbreakers. It is an oxymoron. It is fruit from a poisonous tree. We cannot have anyone violating the law and getting away with it. Section 19, non-derogation. Rights listed in this article shall not be removed or suspended except in cases of national emergency or where strictly necessary. Any suspension must be limited in time and be subject to public oversight. So if we're having any kind of erosion of rights or derogation of rights, it has to be in line with what the people have authorized by vote. Everything is by public vote. Section 20, duty of the state. The state of Jamaica shall protect rights and freedoms, prevent abuse of power, ensure equality under the law, and uphold the dignity of all people. Right? Lawful welcome. So here we have the next section. Section 17, government process, voting and decision making. Section 1, purpose of public decision making. Governance in Jamaica shall be carried out through direct participation of the people. Let me say that again. Governance in Jamaica shall be carried out through direct participation of the people. So if the people do not voice their opinion by voting, nothing happens. Everything stays the same. 2, it shouldn't go any other way from the start. Exactly. And funny you say that. That was how it was before the takeover. 2, decisions affecting the nation must reflect the informed will of the people. Decisions affecting the nation must reflect the informed will of the people. When was the last time the government asked you, do you think we should do this? Is this really a public concern? When was the last time the government asked the people anything? King of TikTok, lawful, welcome. When was the last time the government asked anybody nothing before they actually take action? 3, no law, policy, or expenditure shall take effect without lawful approval where required. Right? And we talked about this earlier with, again, it is by voting. It is not simply by decision of a few. Section 2, the right to vote. Every citizen has the right to vote on national matters, parish matters, and constitutional changes. Right? 2, voting shall be equal, accessible, and free from coercion or influence. Right? And when we talk about voting, we have to talk about a system that is instant. No ballot counting. None of that foolishness. It should be the same day. From 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. If you don't get to vote, your problem that you have the whole day to take out your phone and go vote. Right? And once all the votes are in, it should be right there and accessible to everybody. We're not supposed to have no independent, nothing, voting, nothing. No counting, no hand moving of boxes and all. No. Instant. Instant. Local. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't even be internet connected. So nobody can try hack it. It should be something local. We just go into the town and you go and you cast your vote electronically and you go your yard. And it is right there in the public, so nobody can move it, nobody can do anything. It's an independent computer that count the votes. Anyways, Section 3, eligibility to vote. A citizen is eligible to vote upon reaching the lawful age of participation. Right? No eligible citizen shall be denied the right to vote except by lawful judgment of a court. Again, we can modify this, right? Because, again, if one is a citizen of the country, I firmly believe that everyone should have the right to participate, whether you are a convicted criminal or not. Once you are a citizen, you should be able to cast a vote. Right? So we have to make sure, say, if we are going to limit or deny the right to vote, you know, again, it's going to be up to the people whether or not we want this provision to remain. Section 4, National Voting System. Jamaica shall maintain a secure and transparent national voting system. The system shall allow participation from all eligible citizens, provide accurate and verifiable results. Voting methods may include physical voting or secure digital voting systems. Right? So, if we're going to allow voting, you know, we can have a system where just like you have an ID, you would get to a website and you can use your ID to cast your vote. Or we can have physical systems or a combination of both, right? And again, have a same day process where as soon as voting concludes, the results are immediately available. We should not have any kind of individual interference with voting. We should not need a human being to go there and vote them account of votes. Votes should now be automatic. All right. 15, transparency of voting. All voting processes must be open to observation, verifiable and recorded. All right. So just like we say, you have an ID or some kind of number, that is what you use to vote. 2, results shall be publicly available and subject to independent verification. All right. Section 6, approval threshold. Any matter requiring national approval shall require a minimum participation and approval threshold of 40% of eligible voters. Right? So everybody don't have to vote, but we need a minimum part of the population to be considered a national vote. Right? We can't have just 30% or, you know, we need a minimum threshold of eligible voters to make any national change. So if 40% of the population don't vote, that change does not go into effect. Matters requiring this threshold include national spending decisions, constitutional amendments, international agreements affecting sovereignty, and major development projects. Right? So this would ensure that it is actually the will of the people that is being executed and not just the will of a few. Section 7, parish voting. Each parish may conduct votes on local matters. Parish decisions must be transparent, reflect the will of local residents, right? So we would also have local parish voting, where we would have systems set up where when major decisions are supposed to be made, we have parish voting for those specific things. Parish decisions shall not conflict with this constitution. Right? Section 8, proposal of national matters. National matters may be proposed by the Council of Parish Commanders, a public petition meeting defined thresholds. All proposals must be clearly written and publicly disclosed before voting. Now, what does this mean? This means that if we have something that comes up that says, well, this is a national matter, right? It has to be proposed by either the Council of Parish Commanders, meaning, you know, as you say, right now we have what? Mayors in the parishes, right? Instead of a mayor, we would have parish commanders. So all the parish commanders would have to concede that, yes, this is a national matter, right? And then it is presented to the people via a petition. Or a public petition meeting the defined threshold. So if we have, if for whatever reason the parish commanders does not believe that there is a national issue, the people can come together and make a public petition on a certain matter of national importance, right? So not just those who are in power at the time, the people themselves can come together and put together a public petition and vote on it. And that goes into effect. All proposals must be written clearly and publicly disclosed before voting, right? So that ensures that everyone is aware of what is going on and they have an opportunity to go through it before voting begins. Section 9. Public petition process. Citizens may initiate national or parish decisions through petition. A petition must gather a defined number of verified supporters and clearly state the proposed action. Verified petitions shall proceed to public vote. So again, the people themselves can come to make that decision on whether or not they are going to submit a petition for public vote. They don't need anybody else's approval, such as the parish command, in order to make a public petition. Section 10. Protection from manipulation. Voting systems must protect against fraud, coercion, or interference, right? And there are many ways to do that, especially in electronic systems. You can have an IP limitation where once you vote, your device is locked out. You can also have IDs which do the same thing. Once you vote, it is counted as just one vote. So you have your ID, it is locked to, only one vote. So it doesn't matter where you log in from or what you try. It will only be counted as a single vote. You have physical systems where again you show your ID and it does the same process. If it is just you, it is just you. It's just your ID, your own number, right? And again, if we eliminate people actually going in there trying to count ballot votes, we can now effectively see the true voting if we eliminate people touching the voting systems, right? Let me see if we can. Yeah, we can eliminate any kind of errors and any kind of corruption from people trying to manipulate the system. Yep, 60 years and all, no, we have not had a truly transparent voting system, at least in my view. Any attempt to manipulate voting shall be a serious violation of law, right? And when you say a serious violation of law, you get more severe penalties, obviously. Section 11, independent oversight. A national voting oversight authority shall be established to monitor voting systems, verify results, and investigate irregularities, right? And my idea of a voting oversight authority is random people in society. Whenever we have voting to occur, we just pick out some random people. We get some random volunteers, and those people, their job now is to ensure that we have proper oversight of voting systems. Because if we keep the same people in place, that is where corruption also boils. So if we keep on shuffling people around, nobody is really going to have any upper hand or any kind of reason to manipulate or trying to manipulate voting results, right? Especially where you have serious penalties related to such matters, right? Oversight findings shall be public. This is also a very important thing, transparency. If there's an investigation going on and we have any kind of findings as a result of the investigation, it should be made public immediately. We don't want no summary and no report. You post the raw data, especially the video evidence. What were you doing to do this oversight investigation? What were the results? All of them, something there should be publicly available. We want to see how you do your job. We don't just want to see the product. Let us see all the steps that were taken, right? Section 12, record of decisions. All votes and outcomes shall be recorded as part of the national record, right? A permanent record. So anybody can go back and see what exactly was done. National record. Right? We have a read-only systems where everybody can access it, and that is simply a copy. Records must include the proposal, participation levels, and the final result. Section 13, implementation of decisions. Approved decisions shall be implemented by parish commanders, national commanders within their respective authority, right? So once a decision has been made to go ahead and do something, whatever it may be, then whatever level of commanders, they will coordinate with the necessary resources to get it done. 2, implementation must reflect the exact terms approved by the people. We cannot have proposals and those kind of things that do not meet the terms of what was agreed to, right? We always have to go with what was approved. Section 14, limitation on authority. No authority may override a decision lawfully approved by the people. Again, if you don't state it, if it is not written down, people sometimes use their head and I say, well, it never say enough to do this. Well, here you go. No authority may override a decision lawfully approved by the people. So you can't say you never know, and you can't say you just do it because. The only authority you have is to make the decisions that are lawfully approved by the people. That's it. Any attempt to alter or ignore such decisions shall be invalid. Right? And once something is invalid and you're acting in a public office, you now become liable for your decisions, personally. And here come the agents. Let's start report the live. All right. Section 15. Emergency decisions. Roy, lawful, welcome. In case of urgent national need, temporary decisions may be made by national commanders. Right? And again, urgent national need. Temporary decisions may be made by national commanders. Right? And again, such decisions must be publicly disclosed, be submitted for approval within a definite time or defined time. So even though there may be a national need for emergency decisions, these are not permanent policies, right? These would be very temporary and only related to the current emergency that is at hand. And it still needs to be approved by the public. So no, emergency decisions cannot just be made by any single entity, body, or individual. You still have to go through the people. Section 16, duty of public decision system. The system of governance in Jamaica shall reflect the will of the people, ensure transparency, prevent concentration of power, and maintain accountability in all decisions. The primary purpose here is to prevent a concentration of power. If we only have certain individuals who are there making decisions, they have all the power to go ahead and say yes or no at their own will. Then not only do we have a concentration of power, but we have an unbridled concentration of power to our detriment, which is what we're living through. Section 18, final provisions, transition and supremacy. Adoption, continuity, and constitutional authority. Section 1, supremacy of this constitution. This constitution is the highest and only source of law in Jamaica. Why do we say this? Again, let us repeat it for those who are new. If we have a constitution, it should be the only law document in Jamaica. We should not need to have 15 and 20 different acts of parliament and this and that and regulation and rule. And it should be one single law document. So anybody who is looking to find out what does the law say, this should be the primary source of law, the only source of law. So anybody who need to find out what the law says, they can simply refer to this document. Any law, rule, regulation, or practice inconsistent with this Constitution shall have no force or effect on or after the date of adoption and enactment of this Constitution. So, once we enact something like this, we remove all other inconsistent laws, rules, or regulations, right? All governmental or public authority exercised within Jamaica must arise from this Constitution. So these three go hand in hand. If the authority does not arise from the Constitution, then it is void going forward once it is enacted. Section 2, Adoption of the Constitution. This Constitution shall take effect upon approval by the people through national vote. Upon adoption, this Constitution shall govern all institutions, persons, and activities within Jamaica. 3. Abolition of prior systems of rule. Upon adoption of this Constitution, all prior systems of governance, all prior laws, statutes, regulations, and codes shall cease to have authority within Jamaica. Unlike the current constitutional framework that adopted all of the colonial laws that we are suffering under today, this Constitution would abolish all systems of rule so that we can now implement what the people actually want rather than adopting colonial laws that are suppressing and oppressing the people. 2. No prior law shall be enforced unless reenacted under this Constitution. Plain and simple. If the people does not reenact a law under the Constitution, it does not exist. It is null and void. Section 4. Continuity of essential functions. To ensure stability, essential functions of society shall continue during transition, including the courts, public services, infrastructure operations. So what that means is, obviously, all of our essential services would continue. However, these functions shall operate only under the authority of this Constitution. So while they are still functional, they only now can function under the terms, rules, and regulations under this Constitution, not any prior system of rule. Section 5. Transition of institutions. Existing institutions shall be reviewed and reconstructed to comply with this Constitution. Any institution that cannot operate within the limits of this Constitution shall be dissolved or replaced. Plain and simple. So, if we have an institution that is basically colonial in nature, it would be replaced or removed, right? Because if we're going to have a system of governance that is not fair, it's not equal, it is tiered based, and it is something that is oppressing some people and allowing some people access, if it is inconsistent with, rights, with the law, all of these different things, we cannot allow it to continue. So everything is going to be integral to the vote of the people. So if the people them say, no, we don't want that, that's how it go. It's that simple. It's going to be that simple. Nobody is going to be holding this massive amount of power and shielding others and allowing all kind of atrocities to be happening while other people just walk around like say them a God. No. If the people them say get rid of it, that's it. Immediately. Immediately. Section 6. Recognition of prior acts. Acts lawfully completed before adoption of this Constitution shall remain valid where they do not conflict with this Constitution. Let me read that one there again. Acts lawfully completed before adoption of this Constitution shall remain valid where they do not conflict with this Constitution. So, if someone had some issue prior to this Constitution going into effect, and now they're looking at the Constitution, they realize, that my rights were not respected, my rights were violated, but I did not get any justice, they can now petition the courts to review the matter. Right? Because at the end of the day, the rights that people have is not something given to them by any document or government. So if your rights were violated, your rights were already inherent. So we cannot have a violation of rights and laws without some kind of retribution. Ongoing matters shall be brought into conformity with this Constitution. This is an important one as well. If we have matters going on in court, what is going to happen to them? They now have to fall under the rules and regulations of this Constitution. They cannot proceed under the previous colonial laws. So now, for those people who are charged and this and that and whatever, no, all the evidence have to be presented to the court first. People cannot be dragged into court without evidence, and then now the court is asking the accused questions. It's ridiculous. If you say I do something, are you supposed to prove what me do? Me not supposed to answer whether me innocent or guilty or XYZ. Anyways, so any matter that is currently ongoing, it has to now be in conformity with the Constitution once it is enacted. Section 7, Enforcement of the Constitution. The courts of Jamaica shall enforce this Constitution. 2. Any person may challenge a law or an action of government. Right? An exercise of authority. So any person may challenge a law, an action of government, or an exercise of authority that violates this Constitution. So when we talk about prior systems of rule, if something that you're challenging was a matter of challenging that old law or an action of a government agent, you can now bring it under the constitutional requirements of the new Constitution that is enacted. Section 8, Duty of public officials. All public officials shall swear to uphold and defend this Constitution. Right? So just like they have an oath right now, they still have an oath, but that oath is now to this Constitution. Everybody have to take over back them oath. 2, any official who acts contrary to this Constitution shall lose authority, incur personal liability, incur criminal liability where ultra vires actions continue, and be subject to legal action. Right? So no longer will it be excused that you were simply doing your job. It has to be in alignment with the Constitution. Anybody who fall out of line, you are now personally liable to legal action. Section 9, Stability of the Constitution. This Constitution shall remain unchanged for a minimum of 10 years after adoption or last amendment. Which means what? No change can be made in between the 10-year periods. So, it allows for stability of the Constitution. This period ensures stability and consistency in governance, right? Exactly. Give it time to grow. Section 10, Amendment of the Constitution. Amendments may occur only after the 10-year stability period or in cases of national emergency. 2, any amendment must be clearly proposed, be publicly disclosed, and receive approval by the people through national vote. Plain and simple. We don't need 50 pages of rules and regulations of whatever. By the time we're done, we're also going to have templates inside this document. So we don't have no need for certain things. You simply just follow the template. Section 11, Emergency Amendment Exception. In cases of war, national disaster, or widespread crisis, temporary amendments may be adopted. And when we say temporary means it is for a short period of time. Right? So it is not a permanent amendment to the Constitution. It is only to ensure that, everyone is protected and, certain measures are taken to allow us to continue as a society with modified rules when we have crisis. Such amendments must be limited in scope, be reviewed and approved by the people within a defined time. All right? Section 12, Preservation of Rights. No amendment shall remove the fundamental rights of the people. Like we say that again. No amendment shall remove the fundamental rights of the people. This is important again because many times it is said, well, the law never said we're not supposed to do it. And that's how they get away with it. Cannot have that. 2, rights and freedoms shall remain protected under all circumstances. Like we read that again. Rights and freedoms shall, meaning it must, it affy, no exception, remain protected under all circumstances. So that means, nobody can say, a wartime now, you're not on the rights. A wartime now, we can just run in your house. A wartime now, we can take your property and we not forget the court. No. No. None of those things are valid. And if such action is taken, obviously, legal action can be taken to remedy those situations. Section 13, National Record of the Constitution. This Constitution shall be recorded permanently, be made accessible to all people. Right? So a printed copy. Let us go through the rest. Copies shall be maintained in public institutions, digital systems, and educational material. So it is the government's job to print out a copy of this Constitution and make it available to all people. So just like you have the man that will sell newspaper at daytime, you will have stations where you can go and go pick up a copy. You don't need to pay for the law. You go and pick up a copy. Right? Section 14, duty of this Constitution. This Constitution exists to establish lawful governance, protect the rights of the people, ensure accountability, preserve sovereignty, and provide stability and order in Jamaica. And that concludes the constitutional draft, the major sections. All right, so we have 18 sections, 18 articles of the constitutional draft. Now, there are a few sections that expansions have started. One is the criminal code, right? So even though this is a part of the Constitution, this will be considered what we call a special section, right? Where certain things are defined, like criminal law, right? Everybody should know what exactly, it means to commit a crime, what is considered a crime, etc., etc. In today's day and age, the general public don't even know what a crime means, right? So we have to have a criminal code that is available to the general public. So here we have part 1, general principles. Section 1, definition of crime. A crime is an act that is defined in this code. It is committed intentionally or knowingly, and it causes or risks harm to a person, property, or the public. Right? So again, the purpose of of including stuff like this is to ensure transparency and accountability. This should not be limited to only those who are in the legal field or those who end up in court. Everybody should have access to this information. And if we're going to teach our young who are coming up about the Constitution, everybody needs to know what is not accepted within society, right? So we have to lay out everything. And in plain terms, this does not have to be a 500-page document. So, Section 2, Foundational Presumption of Innocence. Every person is innocent until proven guilty in a lawful court. Guilty confessions are valid only in the presence of a lawful court tribunal. Swearing to the truthfulness of such confession, void of any external influence, agreement, or contract. Now, why do we have such a section? If somebody wants to say them guilty, right? Shouldn't we allow them to say, yes, I am guilty of the crime? Here's the problem with that. If somebody is forcing someone to say they are guilty, how can we protect that individual? It is very simple. The individual must make such confession in the presence of a lawful court tribunal. That way, nobody in there can coerce or threaten that individual. Right? So now, it is up to that individual if they truly want to say, yes, I am guilty. It cannot be forced out of somebody. But again, if someone claims that they are innocent or retains their innocent and they go through a trial, right? You face the full blunt of the law. Because obviously, you have a chance to make a confession and save the court time. But at the same time, we cannot be having people getting forced to make guilty pleas. The basic rules of presumption of innocence should simply be anybody who is charged with a crime. The primary thing that happens is what? You go through the lawful process and you have a trial that is already in law, but it has been modified by the courts where they keep on asking you guilty or not guilty and try to get you to plead so that they don't have to have a trial. And in many cases where people are innocent, they simply end up pleading guilty because they can't bother. That should be abolished. Everybody should get a trial. And if you are guilty, you simply face the consequences. Section 3, burden of proof. The accuser bears full burden of proof. Proof must be beyond reasonable doubt. And guess what? A constable is not the one who determines reasonable doubt. A judge is not the one who determines reasonable doubt. It is the tribunal. And what we haven't put in here yet, what people don't realize, is that a judge or a panel of judges are supposed to be regular people from their communities, regular people from different communities, people just rotating in the courts. That is what's supposed to be a judge, because you can't have somebody who know you're a judge, right? It's supposed to be a complete stranger that don't care about nothing about the case. That is how you have fairness and justice. So you cannot have the same individuals judging all the time. Just like in a jury selection. You cannot have the same individuals just rotating. No. Random people come in and they judge. Right? You judge based on the evidence. So, if somebody is accused of a crime, evidence must exist first. And the accused individual bears no burden to answer any question or provide anything. It is those accusing him that must provide every single thing. They have the burden of proof, not the accused. Intent. A person commits a crime only if they intended the act or knowingly carried out the act. So this has always been a contention among the legal field, right? Can someone be charged with a crime for unintentional acts? For example, you're traveling down the street and you're meeting an accident and someone passes away, right? Unintentional act. Unless it can be proven that, well, you were negligent, you were drinking or you were partying or some distraction in the car that caused you to cause the accident, right? No, if it is your fault, obviously, it is going to be justified to punish you because of your negligence. But if it is not an intentional act, it cannot be considered a crime, right? Yes, there can be mistakes where the law is not going to penalize you in the same way as someone who intentionally does something, right? Because if it is no fault of your own, you cannot be held liable. That would be unfair. So at the end of the day, we have to be careful about, what we consider a crime. It has to be intentional or it has to be knowingly carried out, right? And of course, that has to be proven in a court of law. Section 5, self-defense. A person may take necessary action to protect themselves, family, or others from immediate harm or unlawful activity. Force must be reasonable and necessary. Self-defense is not limited to private individuals. Self-defense against state agents must be lawfully justified, or any such unjustified action shall be punishable as a crime. Now, this is important. In the current scheme of things, we know that many actions taken by law enforcement are deemed to be justified in most cases. So people do not dare to defy law enforcement in many cases, right? Because they know when the matter reaches court, that is a whole nother thing. Because there is nothing in law stopping law enforcement from running up in your place, charging you with a crime, etc., etc. So with provisions like self-defense, when we define this in criminal law, this protects people's private rights. So if law enforcement run in on your property, number one, without a warrant, and number two, without announcing themselves, you can reasonably defend yourself and your property and your family and others, because now you don't know if it's a criminal, right? And the fact that now, when we have a constitution like this enacted, you have the right to bear arms. You have the right to have a weapon for self-defense. Anybody who run in on you, them can get canned. It's that simple. If you don't have a warrant, if you don't have any kind of authority and reason to come on somebody's property, that person is justified in using their self-defense options, right? So, as long as it is legally justified, you can defend yourself, your property, and your family, and others. If you see somebody being harmed or some unlawful activity going on, you can intervene as a concerned citizen and assist to stop that unlawful activity. Section 6, liability. Individuals are personally responsible for their actions, right? So this does not excuse people to do anything. You still are responsible for your actions, but as long as your actions are lawful, you are fine. 2, no immunity exists for public officials acting ultra vires. So, again, we want, those in government to be justified in whatever they are doing lawfully. But once they fall outside of their official duties and they start acting without lawful authority, or they're acting ultra vires, they have no immunity and they are now subject to legal action. All right? Part 2, crimes against persons. Section 7, homicide. Unlawful unaliving of another person. Categories: intentional, reckless, negligent, aiding and abetting, hiring or paying another to unalive, kidnapping and starving to death, burying alive. Right? So all of these are part of homicide. Section 8, assault. Any act causing physical harm or threat of harm, that is considered assault. Public officials may only use force as necessary to carry out their duty lawfully. Use of excessive or unnecessary force constitutes a crime. Right? Humble TD, lawful. Thank you, thank you. Need for speed, lawful, welcome. Right, so unnecessary force and excessive use of force constitutes a crime. Not because you have a badge, not because you have the authority as an official, that don't mean say you are God over people and you can render judgment as you see fit. Right? We have to limit these powers and we have to give severe penalties. So if you commit a crime, then you get criminal penalties. It's that simple. Right? Section 9, sexual crimes. Any non-consensual sexual act is a crime. Consent must be clear, voluntary, informed, with a person older than 17 years of age. Now again, we as a society and we as a people can decide what this number is. So that means that have to be 18 years of age or older. Right? So older than 17. So we can stop having these young ladies getting pregnant. Hopefully, right? But again, once we have these things defined and clearly available to everyone, so they can read and they can see, and they can be taught in schools, much of the problems we have, they are going to be eliminated. Section 10, kidnapping. Unlawful confinement or movement of a person without consent. Right? Very simple. Part 3, crimes against property. Theft, the taking of property without permission. Right? So this is almost like a definition section for the criminal code. Right? 12, fraud, obtaining benefit through this deception, trickery, or fabricated scheme. 13, destruction of property, damaging property intentionally or recklessly. Right? All of these are crimes against property. Part 4, crimes against public trust. Corruption, abuse of public authority for personal gain. Right? So, I'll give you an example of that. You see, those that own a business and they use their public authority function to drive business to that personal business, that is a form of corruption. Right? And that is a crime. Section 15, abuse of authority. Use of public power outside lawful limits. Right? So anybody who is using more power than they are entitled to use, that is an abuse of authority. Andrew said, what are you reading, bro? All right, so I guess this is a good time. For those who are new, I'll show you where you can locate this document and catch up to speed. I'll give you a briefing. So if you go to voiceofjamaica.com, what we're currently doing is we're reviewing our constitutional draft. All right, so go to voiceofjamaica.com, click on New Constitution. It is the first post right here, New Constitution. And here you have the PDF edition. That is what we're reading from. So if you click on that, it will open up the PDF document of what we consider to be the first constitution of Jamaica. the current constitution that we think is a constitution is actually a document called an Order in Council 1962, right? And let us pull up that document. We went over this last time, but for those who are new, welcome. So here we have the Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council, 1962. So this is not a constitution. As you can see, it is in brackets, right? And this is what the courts of Jamaica are using to render judgment on many matters, right? So if you go to the very first section, it will let you know that this is an order, you see? 1. This order may be cited as the Jamaica Constitution Order in Council 1962. So this was an order coming out of Britain, creating what's called a constitutional framework. So it has no teeth. It has no penalties for violations. It has nothing in there to stop corruption, right? So since that time, the people of Jamaica have never created their own constitution. So what we are doing is we are drafting a new constitution that is going to be the first sovereign constitution of the people. So that's what we're doing over here, and that's what we're reading from. I hope that makes sense. All right, so part 5, crimes against public order. Public violence, acts that threaten safety of multiple persons. 17, obstruction of justice, interfering with investigation or court proceedings. Part 6, penalties. Principles of punishment. Punishment shall be proportionate, be lawful, aim to restore harm, right? So it aims to bring you back to a position that you were in before something happened, right? Section 19, types of penalties. Penalties may include restitution, required labor. So let's talk about what these things mean. Restitution means either you pay back or you get paid for the damage that was done. Required labor, in some cases where there's a violation of law, instead of someone going to prison, they would work it off within society. You become a productive member of society, not just someone sitting in a jail. Restriction of liberty. Obviously, if you commit a crime, you cannot do as you please, you cannot go as you please, right? So you will be given food and shelter, but that's it. You would have to work off your labor, or you provide restitution in some way. Removal from office. So obviously, if you're a public official, you would be subjected to possibly being removed from office, depending on the conduct that is committed. Section 20, restitution. Offenders must compensate victims where possible, right? And that is where we're at with the criminal code. So this is the current draft. We are currently almost done. There are about 3 more sections to complete, and then we're going to be reviewing the draft to include, and let us go back. Let's go back to our website. So on voiceofjamaica.com, hold on. Just scroll down to new constitution. And here we have our suggestions, right? So if you want to make a suggestion for a constitutional change within the draft, you can submit it using this form, right? If you scroll down, you can see the submissions that we've had so far. So we've had quite a few submissions that we should be including. And if you scroll down further, you will see the previous draft sessions that we've had, right? These are our previous draft sessions. I think we're at draft 8, draft 9. Okay, so we had 9 draft sessions so far. This is the 10th draft session, right? And you can go back and see what we went over and what we discussed, etc., etc. So as we go along, in the next session, we are going to be implementing and including and incorporating some of these suggestions into the constitutional draft, and we will be having live discussions on whether or not we want to add provisions, we want to remove, we want to change what we want in our different sections of the constitutional draft, right? Like here we have the preamble, here we have the Declaration of the People, right? Etc., etc. And this is important, especially when we talk about the Bill of Rights and Freedoms, right? This is important because if we don't lay out what exactly it is that we want, then how are we going to achieve the goals of having, I wouldn't even say a democratic society. This is going to be a society based on the will of the people. I'm going to have to look up the term for that. But when we have a society where the people are integral in the decision-making process, that is when we can truly say, yes, we are a connected people. Yes, we are a community-based people. Yes, we are no longer just a people looking for a dollar. Right? Did you know? A matter of fact, let me show you something. If we look up tourism, let's go back here. Tourism revenue for Jamaica in 2024. All right? Let us look for direct government revenue. So, tourism in Jamaica, tourism alone, right? In Jamaica, brought in $4.38 billion, right? That is what is reported, right? And where do they have airport revenue was 200 million US dollars just by airport revenue alone. All right? And here they were saying it is projected to have 5 billion revenue in by 2025. Right? So we have these billions of dollars that is being acquired by the government, right? And we are only seeing projects and we are only seeing reports of what they supposedly are doing with some of this money. They say they want $1 billion from traffic tickets, right? And they are aiming towards that goal. And we hear about all of these different figures. Let's see. Tax revenues for Jamaica. Right? Jamaican tax revenue alone is almost $1 trillion for the year 2024-2025. So, if we have this amount of funds, what exactly are we doing with this money? Do we need to be spending all of it? What is the actual amount in the consolidated fund? What are we spending on? How come the people don't have a say in what the government does with all of this money? So many questions, so little answers. All we hear about is parliamentary questions and answers and entertainment. We don't ever get to see any of the raw data. Then you talk about the whole busting last year. A matter of fact, let me show you something. Let us look up JIS Jamaica. Alright? This is the Jamaica Information Service. I'm going to show you something. When we talk about accountability, just do a search for storm. What was it? Was hurricane relief. The other day I was reading a news story here as it relates to the hurricane efforts, right? Now look at this. We have Howard University donating 54,000 US dollars to aid hurricane relief efforts, right? And here we have more families receive container houses through hurricane relief mission, right? And we have all of these news stories. All of these news stories. But when it comes to actually seeing and hearing from the people on the ground, we are not seeing the same thing. It's almost like there are some people receiving aid or some people receiving benefit, but it is not uniform. It is not everybody receiving anything. Right? Here we have a cruise industry rally behind Jamaica with over 3 million US dollars in hurricane relief. 3 million US dollars, you know. And you have to be wondering, if they are getting all of these funds, look at this, hurricane relief funds climbed to 38 million Jamaican dollars and 720 in milestone. So this is local fundraising, right? 728 US dollars. So all of these things going on, right? The point here I'm making is this. There is no transparency. All we are hearing are news stories and reports. We don't have any access to the information on who is getting all of these funds. Where is the so-called progress? Because we're supposed to be rebuilding. That was the point of most of these donations in monetary value. We had food donations that were being held. We don't hear nothing about that. We had cruise lines and ships coming in with supplies. We don't hear nothing more about that. We see so many things going on and we cannot verify none of it. We cannot verify none of it. All we can do is hear what they said and do. We can see pictures and we can see a few people. But we cannot verify none of it. And I find that to be a major problem. Again, just because we don't see it, that don't mean it doesn't happen. But why can't we have actual data and verify what it is they are doing? I think that is a major problem in all departments of government. The transparency of information. If something is happening right now, why do we need to wait for somebody to put their spin on it? Why can't we see the information now as it is happening? If them say somebody is being apprehended for whatever, why can't we see the body cameras right now? Why do we have to wait for somebody to touch the data, touch the video, touch this, touch that? Why? Transparency does not mean you fix it the way you want it and give it to me. I want to see the raw data. I want to see the... So anyways, Point of all that is, if we had something like this constitution in force and effect, we eliminate all of these problems, all of these excessive spending, all of these contracts being signed without us knowing what's in them, these agreements being signed without us knowing what it's about, these laws being implemented as laws when they are not called laws, you know, all these colonial things. A matter of fact, did you know that under international law, tolls are illegal? Tolls are illegal. Anything that restricts access to where people commonly travel is illegal. Imagine that. But you see, because we as a people now have a say whenever they are implementing all of these so-called rules or rules of law, that is a major problem for us. Because we did not have a say in it, and honestly speaking, we should not have a say in it, because it was already shown to us in section 48.3 of the Constitution that, let me show you. And I went over this before. Section 48.3, Powers and Procedure of Parliament, right? It states that no civil or criminal proceedings may be instituted against any member of Parliament of either House for words spoken before or written in a report to the House of which he is a member, or to a committee thereof, or to any joint committee of both houses, or by any reason of any matter or thing brought by him therein by petition, bill, resolution, motion, or otherwise. So that means they can't go to jail for nothing. They are immune from prosecution when it comes to these draconian laws that are being passed and instituted as people laws. So everybody's subject to that law. So even if it is deemed unconstitutional, they are immune from prosecution. And that is why they do what they do. They cannot be held accountable as a matter of law. So something like this could never, we as a people would never institute something like this, where we are subject to the law, and those who are in parliament or in politics, they are exempt from the law. They cannot face civil nor criminal penalties. So when you wonder how come the law don't apply to them, here you go, right? I am not teaching you nothing new. This has been there since 1962. This is publicly available. You can go and Google and find this. Just search for Jamaica Constitution and you will find this document. Right? So, the point of drafting a new constitution, again, is to ensure that it is what we the people want to be instituted, and not the whim of those few that are in power. Right? So, that is the goal of this. Laws that are equal to all in Jamaica. And for those wondering, why is the name spelled that way? The name is spelled that way so we do not infringe on the current copyright. We don't infringe on the current brand name. I know some of you don't know what that means, but trust and believe that name is owned by someone or some entity. It is not what we think it is. So if you have any questions, you can touch on the box and come up. Or if you want to make a suggestion, you can also come up and talk about it, and we can make a submission on your behalf on VOJ over here. So, but we are just about almost done with the constitutional draft. I think on Monday we should be able to complete the draft itself, and we're going to be working on refinement. Akira said, just joined. What's the topic? The topic is the constitutional draft. That's what we're working on. That is what we're working on. So, as a matter of law, there are many people out there who are suffering because not only do they not know the law, but the law is being misapplied to them, right? And there is no substitute for education, and education doesn't necessarily mean school. Education is simply you learning information that you can use in your practical world. Something like a constitution should not be so cryptic that you cannot simply read it and understand what it says or comprehend its terms. So when we're working on a constitutional draft, it is in plain language. It is in plain English. It is not something that is supposed to be tricking you or forcing your brain to overwork to try to comprehend what is being said. Everything here is relevant to how our basic society is run. So at the end of the day, once we complete a draft like this, primary school, high school, and beyond should already know most of what is in here. Right? When we talk about curriculums in school, we have to look at what is being taught to our children. Right? How can we make the next generation better by teaching them differently? Not just how to become a worker. Right? You know, there's nothing wrong to be proud of a career field. But at the same time, how does your career field give back to your community? That is one of the things that keeps us relevant, that keeps us grounded. Right now, we hardly have communities. When we have any kind of community, it's almost like a common pain in our side. So we come together and we do something about it. We're no longer coming together for a common good. You're coming together for common grievances, common problems. And it shouldn't be so. Just like we can come together for common problems, we should be able to come together for the greater good of everybody. Because when we have peacetime, what should we really be doing? Should we really just be looking forward to work? Watching TV and coming on TikTok? Going to dance? What else could we be doing? Could we have innovation? What other productive factor within society could we be implementing as a people? We have our historical aspects, right? So why can't we create history as well? I am pretty sure that there are so many people in Jamaica that have great ideas, amazing ideas, that they just don't have an avenue to express those ideas. They don't have any collaboration, they don't have any outlet to be creative and to join forces with other people. And I talk about the individual before who make the car run off of electrolyte water, right? We talk about, you know, others who build different things. People who are chemists, people who just born with, you know, certain abilities to be able to decipher and create and be productive in our society. And they are, you know, they are very smart, they are very creative, but they are not able to foster that into something more monumental. if you don't go to university or have access to some of these advanced places with the materials and the technology to help you build your ideas, you have no outlet. You just have to settle for whatever is there in your current society. So the constitutional draft is not just about the law and the rights of the people. It is about creating a society where we can create institutions to allow those with talent to build on those talents, to collaborate with other people who have those talents, right? To complement those talents. And in some cases, to create things that are new, create things that are novel, things that others might not have, or build on top of what others have. Just like 20, 30 years ago, you only had a few car companies. Now you have a whole multitude, right? Not because they want to create a better car, because they want to create something different. Everyone have different needs, right? It's just like TV. Before we used to have one or two channels. Now we have access to over 1,000, right? Depending on whatever. So we can create industries and do a lot of things without sacrificing our livelihoods, without sacrificing our, like really have a society where we can do things that we are all proud of. Not just a use, consume. Same thing with farming. The same thing with, animal rearing. The other day, I saw two people with apple trees. Exactly, society can build without cost of our souls. I saw two people with apple trees. One was such and such homestead. He had an American apple tree that he grew an apple from. And I saw another individual with an apple tree that he was growing, and he knew people who had actual apple farms. Well, an apple farm, right, where the apples are growing in Jamaica, American apple. And I saw someone in St. Thomas picking peaches off a tree in St. Thomas. And I am saying to myself, peach and American apple, you hear say they are, matter of fact, they don't import peaches to Jamaica. It's just really apples I have seen, apples and grapes. But you have peaches. And I have never seen it. If it wasn't for TikTok, I wouldn't even know that people actually tried and successfully grow these fruits in Jamaica. And now you have pages like, I forgot his name, but the guy's name is Jeffrey. I think he's also in St. Thomas, I think him say. And he has a lot of fruit trees that he's typically promoting, and he's on lives a lot. And I am seeing him selling a lot of fruit trees that are typically not available in Jamaica, right? So I don't know if it's something new, but I honestly believe that we as a people, we already have fruit trees on the side of the road, right? But I think we as a people need to have some food standards where we already can't really go hungry, but we need to be more purposeful about it, right? If a hurricane come and destroy crops or whatever, right? We should have a recourse. We should have a recourse. We cannot always depend on government for everything. And if we don't come together as a people and create our own private networks of promotion and communication and creating relationships and creating networks and creating things that binds us as a people, All right. Here's another interesting thing. When I was younger, we used to have beach trips, right? The church would organize a beach trip, or this, I haven't seen the school really do it. It's typically the church or the community would hire a big bus and people just go a beach trip. There are so many people who don't even think about it. They are more worried about where's my next meal coming from? Me can't pay my rent. My light bill a come. What me I gonna do about this? They don't have the chance to actually enjoy any part of life. Sometimes you go on a beach trip, you have to buy one heap of things. Right? Sometimes you go there and people will carry one little jerk pan or something, and people carry snacks and drinks and whatever. And I am thinking to myself, if we really had communities like when I was younger, right? A lot of the things that we take for granted, some of us take for granted. Some people have not experienced it in their life. Like I see this lady, somebody bought her some KFC, and they brought it to her and they were videotaping it. Now, I don't advocate for that, right? But again, it already passed. Something simple like KFC. Some people, have never eaten it. Never. And when you see their reaction, you have to wonder like, wow, maybe me really take life for granted, because there are some people who just never experience some of these things and they feel like they are living their life, right? Not to say it is healthy or any of that. That is not the point. The point is that there is so much in our country that we the people have not experienced. Some people never left them parish yet. From them born until them are old people, them never leave them parish. The point I'm making here is, if we come together as a people, right, we can not only be better. If we say we are work, we are accomplish that, we can allow people to actually live some life, actually enjoy some portion of their life. Right? If somebody come from the west side, we facilitate some kind of program where they can come to the east side and experience some things. Stay in our hotel for one night or two, right? Go to this beach, go to that the river, just like how you have the tour guides, them get the tourists them, and then pay for go around and do whatever. If we as a community and as a people allow our population to be able to do that, right? Not to say that we are trying to do everything for free, but at the same time, we should be able to come together and accomplish some of these things as a people. It is so heartwarming when people can give back. You feel good about giving back, right? When you help somebody to build a house, you help somebody to stop hunger, you help somebody to acquire something, get a job, do something productive, instead of always looking for what we can get, more and get one little money, more and get this, more and get that. Money is not everything. Money is not everything. Let me give you an example. You have communities throughout Jamaica. The road bad. Some of them not have road. Some of them not have road. They turn in one track. And people live there. A whole society of people live there. Right? And I like the people them can't do it. Yeah, we have somebody will say, all right, I can buy 4 bag of cement. And next person can chip in and say, yes, I can buy 2 bag of cement. Right? And then have somebody else who can say, all right, I can get a load of sand. And do you know that there are many people out there who would not volunteer just because them not get no money for? Even though you might have a car, even though you might have a bike, a bicycle, whatever, you use the road. But just because you're not getting the money for help fix the road, you're not gonna bother. You're not have time for that. But look at it. Now because of that bad road, your tire getting more wear out, your front end have become loose, your brake can have all kind of things fly up in there. All of these different problems just because you're not getting the money for work on the road. So you wouldn't stop or take 1/2 a day and go help fix the road. But yet still, if that little piece of road fix, it will save you repair costs on your vehicle whenever it is time for repairs. It will take a longer period of time for that to happen, right? And we talked about this last time. You have New York the other day. The government said to the people, we are going to pay on to fill the potholes them, and in one day, them fix 8,000 potholes. 8,000 potholes. Just because them pay them. Now, I not tell people say them wrong, them figure do anything for free. However, money should not always be the motivator. You have to think about long-term quality sometime. You can't just think about what you can gain right now. Because I guarantee you, if somebody say, all right, yo, come help out now, you can get a 20 grand. I say, 20 grand in a one day? Yo, yeah man, we can do that. Right? But yet still, if somebody say, yo, just gonna help you out, give you a little strength, you know want to do it. How long will 20 grand last you? How long will the 20 grand last? What if somebody from a next community say, 20 grand, give you half a day's work, give you a full day's work, right? You go out there and you broke your back. You work and you work and you work and you work, right? For the 20 grand, But in your community where somebody say, yo, give me a strength, you can't do it because you're not getting no funds. You see how it's here? You see how it's said? But again, to each his own, right? Sometimes people just want to see other people are do good for them jump in on it. So, I not tell nobody if you go work for free. I not tell nobody if you go work for free. You see, Labor Day come, some people then come out and them ready if you go do something because them can post it on social media. Whatever the motive is. Some people just genuinely want to go out there and do something for Labor Day, right? It should not be Labor Day alone. But we get up and say, make we do something good. Make we do something we can change the community or the people them with their own. Sometimes you can just get up and just do it. You don't need an incentive for everything. I mean, again, to each his own. And everybody got to think that either way. The same reasoning with the taxi man them. So many taxi man have messaged me about how to beat tickets and them something. But when me say come to class, you can find a way on TikTok and sign up for TikTok, but you can't come to class. Right? And you not see the benefit right away, so you don't want to do it. So now when you come to me, I'm going to tell you, say, I can't help you. You feel like me subjective. Right? But you just look for a quick fix. If you only look for a quick fix, you will always get the short end of the stick. Quick fix do not work long term. Just like you find some money. If you find 100 grand right now, you're happy, don't? How long is it going to last you? How long? So you have to think about these things. Does it have a long-term effect or not? So, when we talk about a new constitution, we're not talking about tomorrow. We're not talking about for next year. This literally changes everything for a long period of time. If we come together and we agree on it. Yes, I know it is quite a bit of pages, but you don't eat an elephant all at once. You eat it what? One bite at a time. The whole we eat more than an elephant already, right? Every time we eat food is a little by little, little by little. So over time, if you look at all of the food you eat, more than likely you eat an elephant already. So, to the amount of volume of food you eat. So, we're not trying to do everything in one day. But the day will come when all the things that we do, we will see the accumulation of that effort. So, anyways, if you have any comments or any questions, you can join the box or you can type it in the comment section and we will address them. We are going to wrap it up for tonight and we're going to start modifying the draft on Monday. Monday at 5, we're going to start because I don't really want to start too late. Get all of those things out of the way. And then we start sharpening up the language, sharpening up the sections, possibly consolidating some sections that might have duplicated content. And then we start working on the final draft before we start implementation stage. All right. So that is all we have today. I hope this was informational and educational in some sense. You can get your copy. Let me reiterate again. If you want a copy of the draft, you can go to voiceofjamaica.com. Scroll down and you click on New Constitution. And you can click on PDF edition. And this is our current draft. And from here you can download a copy and you can review what we have so far. All right, so big up everybody. Oh, before we go, you can go to My Voice from the menu section and you can see the current voting polls. You have different questions. If you have the time, I urge you to please go and cast your vote on each of these questions so that we can review them next time and see what people think about these things. So the latest poll is the perception of the Jamaican Traffic Police. Do you believe the Jamaican Traffic Police are professional, honest, and law-abiding when allegedly conducting their duties? Right? So far, we have 9 votes, and everybody said no. They don't think the police is honest, law-abiding, and professional when conducting their duties. The Jamaican judicial system. Do you believe the Jamaican court system is fair and gives justice? Everybody said no. 10 votes. Do you agree Parliament should create a tax on bag juice and other sugary drinks? Everybody said no. Should the government dictate how you eat or make a living? We have 2 people that said yes, and we had 52 people that said no. Is Jamaica as good as it is? I have 16 people say yes, and 179 people say no. All right, so if you would like to voice your opinion and vote, I urge you to go on VOD and click on My Voice. TikTok police. All right, look like that was a fat finger. So you can cast your votes so everyone can see what you think about these questions related to the Jamaican economy. All right. So hope you guys have a great evening. That is it for today. And we will continue on Monday evening. All right. So big up on yourself. We will continue on Monday. Lawful, always.